Well, we have knowledge of the essence existence distinction, right? So,
but where did you derive this knowledge? Is it from Plato? Now, remember, he said Plato, but it's not from Plato.
No, I don't believe it's from Plato. For me, I get my views from Ibn Sina.
Where did he get them?
Well, we believe the essence existence distinction is a self-evident truth because you can...
Oh, how do you know that's self-evident?
Yeah, I know you're going to run the criterion problem, but I don't accept that because...
Oh, you don't accept it. So your answer is you don't accept it.
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to speak to you about what you said to Black Sufi, if you remember him.
Uh-huh.
He was on here a couple minutes ago.
Okay.
He was talking about his Neoplatonic view of, emanation from the one. So I heard you say that if the first intellect or the, Muhammadan reality, if it's eternal, that would make it a second God. But I just wanted to say, for Islamic philosophers and for Sufis, we don't identify divinity with eternality or accidental necessity. For us, divinity is only identified with essential necessity. And if that's the case, then the first intellect being eternal or necessary in existence, in terms of broad logical necessity, that doesn't make it divine. It still makes it a creature. So we don't have multiple gods, basically.
So now, but what you're doing is you're taking things that are elements of the created order, like multiplicity, temporality, and you're giving it divine attributes.
No, because, for example, necessity in the first cause in God is essential, right? But in the first intellect, it's accidental. So that that shared necessity.
Well, okay, let's get more basic than this. How do you know that? How do you know that it's accidental and versus necessary?
Well, we have knowledge of the essence existence distinction, right? So,
but where did you derive this knowledge? Is it from Plato? Now, remember, he said Plato, but it's not from Plato.
No, I don't believe it's from Plato. For me, I get my views from Ibn Sina.
Where did he get them?
Well, we believe the essence existence distinction is a self-evident truth because you can...
Oh, how do you know that's self-evident?
Yeah, I know you're going to run the criterion problem, but I don't accept that because...
Oh, you don't accept it. So your answer is you don't accept it.
Yeah, because I just argue for epistemic finitism.
Okay, how does that resolve how does that resolve the criterion problem?
Because the criterion problem assumes that there is a criterion prior to the first principles of knowledge, but epistemic finitism shows that there cannot be a criterion prior to the first principles.
Okay, how do you know that there cannot be that? Because
epistemic finitism is true.
So it's self-evident because this other thing which is self-evident. So you can just tack on all the things that are self-evident, right?
Well, eventually, do you have a response to epistemic
exactly, I just critiqued it.
No, do you have a response to it?
No, now you're changing it. Yeah. The response is that you just tacked on another self-evident principle.
No,
you missed the whole point of the critique. Yeah, you did. No. You just said no because this other thing is self-evident.
No, because
that is what you said.
Can I speak?
That is what you said.
Can I speak?
Is that not what you said? This other thing is also self-evident.
No, epistemic finitism has arguments for it.
And the argument was this other thing is self-evident.
No.
That is what you argued.
No.
That is what you said.
The argument for epistemic finitism is that if we have knowledge of something, that knowledge can either be dependent...
And I said, how do you know that that's the case? And you said, because it's self-evident.
Well, we certainly do have knowledge of things.
I said, how do you know that second principle is the case? And you said it's self-evident.
What second principle?
The proposition you just stated. You said, we know it because of this. And I said, how do you know that second thing you just said? And you said, because it's self-evident.
Yeah, we know what.
Yeah. So the second thing is also the self-evident thing is true because this other self-evident thing is true.
No, I didn't say that.
You did.
I didn't.
You're a sophist. You just said that.
Can I speak? If we have knowledge of anything, any given proposition, say X, right?
How do you know that that's true? I know. I'm saying that proposition. How do you know that proposition is true?
Well, for example, tautological statements, are those not true?
Well, tautology doesn't tell me anything about reality and how it works in the world. So you can say it's true it's true by definition, but I'm saying, how do you know that something true by definition is applicable here?
It can still be a knowledge claim.
Okay. How do you know?
Because of epistemic finitism.
Because it's self-evident. Yeah, so it's a circle. Good job. Circle. Circle.
Epistemic finitism is not circular.
You're telling me that, and I said, how do you know that? Then you gave this other principle, and I said, how is that principle? How do you know that principle? And you said it's self-evident.
because your epistemology is.
I don't. My epistemology doesn't matter. I'm asking yours. Forget my epistemology. Yours.
Because you just presuppose your religion to be true.
No. Yeah. So here he goes. He deflects away from the epistemic critique to because your religion, you think it's true. No, you didn't. You didn't answer. You said this other thing, which is self-evident, falling into the very thing that it doesn't. The very thing you think it answers, it doesn't answer. And then you deflect to, you think your position is self-evident. I don't think my position is self-evident. I don't believe in self-evidence. So get out of here with that sophistry. You don't solve the criterion problem by saying that, well, I have this finitude position that relies on this thing. And then when I ask you, well, then how do you know that position is true from that thing? And then you say it's that thing is self-evident. That's a circle. So it doesn't resolve. And there's a lot of these people out there that think they're resolving the criterion problem by saying this other thing. And they're missing the point of the criterion problem. I mean, you might think that resolves it, but the thing that you appealed to, you just said again, is self-evident. And by the way, beyond the criterion problem is the other problem I mentioned, which is just as devastating, which is that how do you know the things that are self-evident versus the things that are not? That's a more prior principle. Okay, we lost that other dude. Marcel. I'm you.
Yo, Jay, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I just had a question. This is a question that I just want, I just want to give the benefit of the doubt. You do know that the Sunnis do believe that the Quran is uncreated, right?
Correct.
So I just want to know, they believe that Jibril or Gabriel is a created being.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to know, how the uncreated words is, able to be comprehended by a created being and give to Muhammad.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked that question many times. How do you escape this question when you say, 42 and 110, Allah is nothing like the created order? Okay, well, if Allah is nothing like it, and Allah does not enter into time and space, as many of them believe, then how does this message or these words of Allah translate into the created form of the Quran?
Yeah, so that's a valid argument, right? I can make that argument, right? I just want to give the benefit of the doubt.
That's what?
I just want to give the benefit of the doubt because I just have this, this argument. But again, they say Jibril had this kind of ability to, comprehend the words of Allah and give to Muhammad.
Okay, well, saying that he had the ability to do it doesn't tell us how it's possible given their metaphysical scheme. So that's an ad hoc rescue.
Yep, you're right. And there was one other thing that I want to ask you, that you know that the atheists also believe in something called fatalism, right? Everything is just pre-written by an angel.
Yeah,
and you do,
they believe in a hard determinism, correct.
Yeah, so if that is the case, then why someone has to be a Muslim? Because one day suddenly Allah can just take over your mind, body, and just make you do whatever you like.
Yeah, sure.
So if
many of them are occasionalists, which is even more an extreme position, that at every second Allah is destroying and recreating the world, because there cannot be secondary causes. There cannot be creaturely causes, because for creatures to have causal power would detract from Allah's sovereignty. That's how silly this position is. And it's also just goes back to pagan fatalism. Now, keep in mind, what we're talking about is not hidden. It's not new. They have been critiquing each other on these issues where, for example, here, Critique of the Palmyrean Creed, this whole book is about how all the Salafi argumentation about parts and attributes, shins and all this stuff, hands, that it's anthropomorphic heresy. They are making an analogy between God and Allah and the created order. And this whole book is about in what degree you can and can't do that, and how it's shirk. So, in other words, Ibn Taymiyyah has a doctrine of concurrence, right? Where Allah has a hand. We don't know the modality of a hand, but it's a real hand in some way. But it's nothing like the created hand of the world that the people have in the world. So, how is that? It's silly, right? All this stuff is so silly, but it's given this air of sophistication. Try again.
All right, so don't just kick me off this time because I disagree with you.
No, I didn't. I removed you because you're not answering the question. You're just talking in circles.
Okay, but can I just say something? Epistemic justification isn't necessary here because I'm just giving an account.
How do you know? Well, you're saying all this.
No, but wait, I'm giving an account. I don't need to justify epistemic.
Oh, so you don't have to justify your account.
No, because
That's why you're a sophist. So if you can, you understand how silly this is? If you can do that, I can do that.
You said it's polytheism.
This is so silly. I can give an account. I don't have to justify it. You do have to justify it because we're arguing epistemology. Get out of here with all this sophistry. Get on my nerves. It's crazy. I don't have to justify my account. If you don't have to justify your account, I don't have to justify an account. You see how silly this is? Packy John. So you understand that they miss the whole point of the criterion problem, and they come back and say that, well, the solution to the criterion problem is I give an account, I tell a story that I don't have to give a justification for.
Yo, what's up, Jay?
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you some questions, some problems that I have with Christianity that I'm looking into it. So, I wanted to ask you about like Christology, so the human nature and the divine nature. How do you even reconcile those? Like, for example, the divine nature is eternal, and then the human nature is created. So, how do you reconcile Jesus being eternal and then also created at the same time?
Because of two natures. So he's a divine person who becomes incarnate. It's not a divine nature that becomes incarnate. It's a divine person with a divine nature who steps into time and space. How do we know that's possible? Because he'd already been doing it for all of the Old Testament, stepping into time and space. So we believe it not on the basis, first of all, of metaphysics, but on the basis of divine revelation, that it tells us that the second person, Yahweh's Son, has stepped into time and space many, many times because he's not bound by the logic and the principles of the created order. God created the created order. He created logic. Logic is a created thing in our view. It's not something that binds God. God is the ground of logic. He is not submitting to and the slave of logic. Logic is a created principle based on principles in the divine mind, and he transcends it. So there's nothing impossible or out of hand for God to choose not to actualize every one of his properties or powers and to step into time and space, just like the Muslims or the Jews believe that God was in time and space in various ways and various capacities, unless they're the Muslims who reject this and think that God is only transcendent, which if he's only transcendent, then you have the problem with the previous caller that how do we know what Allah's uncreated Quran is telling us? Because how could there be any similarity between the uncreated Quran and the created Qurans in time and space? So this problem, this bridge is this gap is never bridged in that position if you stress and only believe in transcendence. The Orthodox view, following Hebrew revelation, does not believe that God is only transcendent. He is also immanent, and there is analogical predication. Analogy means that you can predicate on the basis of similarity, not a one-to-one correspondence, similarity. But there's also dissimilarity. But we believe that God can condescend to speak to us, to make things clear to us. So we don't have a problem with anthropomorphic language, and we don't have a problem with theophanies. They think the two go together. But for the text that you're asking for, in Philippians 2, Paul says that Christ, who is and has the form of God, equal to God, Philippians 2, made himself of no reputation, taking on the form of a bondservant, meaning the form of humanity. Coming in the likeness of men, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death on the cross. So he didn't surrender his divinity. It's a both and not an either or. So there's no contradiction between the divine nature and the human nature. God is not opposite the world. God created the world, and he created the world and mankind in his image, in his likeness. Even the Quran says Adam was made in the image and likeness of Allah. Well, wait a minute. I thought there's no likeness at all to Allah, you see. So both Judaism and Islam have this principle in their systems, and then they grapple with it in trying to make sense of this, when Christianity alone is consistent with the Hebrew revelation that the second person has always been manifesting and stepping into time and space. Why is it impossible for God? If God creates time and space, why is it impossible for him to manifest in time and space? Says who?